Hello, everyone. Happy Hump Day. It is, of course, Wednesday, and this is Jay with our next edition of Pop Up Interviews. We'll get started here shortly, but before we get started, a few housekeeping details I wanted to go over. Thank you guys first for being part of the group and for providing me with all of your awesome feedback as well as comments within the group. Everything from the group standpoint has been going so well, and have been getting a lot of feedback from not only EXPs but industry professionals. So thank you to everyone who takes the time to write comments, to be involved in the group, and to be part of the EXP elite community, because it is very important that we not only share our opinions, share our experiences, but that we work together within the experiential marketing industry to create standards as well as a place where we can all discuss issues that we may have as EXPs and just work together to find solutions. So we're going to go ahead and get started shortly with our special guest, Miss Mandee Flanders of Oxford Marketing. She'll be joining us here shortly. If you have any questions, go ahead and place them in the comments below, and we'll get to at the end of the live interview as we go through. So a couple more things I want to touch on. Today is Job Post Wednesday along with our pop-up interview. So if you have any job that you want to staff for, go ahead and place those in the group as well. And if you are looking for any opportunities as an EXP, go ahead and apply and tag your friends. Go ahead and share this group with others. And let's get this group, let's make this group a community where everyone can be involved and contribute in some way, shape, or form. So we have Mandee here with us from Oxford Marketing. She is the director, and I am extremely excited. I don't know why I'm so nervous tonight, but I'm extremely excited because Mandee took time out of her busy schedule. She's going to talk about it, but she's staffing an event in Chicago in the next couple of days. So she took time out of her busy schedule, which I greatly appreciate, to join us tonight and to provide all of us with her feedback, her experience, and some insight that we can all use as EXPs. So without further ado, Miss Mandee, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, great. It's like 93 degrees today in Atlanta, so I'm just trying to stay cool. But other than that, I'm doing great.
It's a little cooler up here. I'm in upstate New York and I wore a sweater today. It was a little bit chillier, so I'm a little envious. I think it's going to start being sweater season for sure up here.
I know fall is right around the corner. I mean, just as you know, it'll be Halloween in the next
I
less
know.
than a month. I know. So it's the year's almost over. So it's crazy. It went by so fast.
It did. It really did.
Yeah, so we'll jump right into it. Go ahead and just introduce yourself for those of you who don't know you, because you are an extremely popular lady. The minute I announced this in the group, I got so many messages and private comments from people saying, "Oh my God, you're interviewing Mandy. I love her. She's awesome." So everybody loves you. Your name definitely rings bells in the industry. So go ahead. For those who don't already know you, go ahead and introduce yourself and
Sure.
explain a little bit about your experience as well.
Okay, sure. So I've been with Oxford Marketing for the past maybe 4 years. I started out doing a little bit of independent recruiting when I lived in the Boston market a few years ago.
Mhm.
And that role eventually grew into the director of operations as of January of this year. So I stay very busy. I'm always staffing something, always working something, going somewhere. So I'd say the most of my time right now is spent staffing, but I still get out there and work events in the fields at the same time because, who wants to sit behind a desk every single day? So I still get out there and do some events on the side as well.
And speaking of events, not only do you do events, I did my research on you. You are a well-versed young lady. You started as a brand ambassador, just like most of us do, and you worked your way up through the ranks. So talk about your journey as an EXP and transitioning from brand ambassador, product specialist, tour manager. You worked with your husband. So just give us a brief background about your experiences and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, to backtrack a little bit, I started working promos with agencies in 2012. And the interesting part of that beginning of my story is that prior to that, maybe a year or two before, I was doing a lot of my own like side entrepreneurial projects, and I was going to events and I was trying to promote my own small business, which was I had a couple. I did internet marketing consulting, so social media marketing, but I also ran an equestrian magazine at the time. So I was out there trying to promote these and work shows and just talk to people. And the more and more events that I worked, the more I realized that people didn't really understand how to really talk to people, that the business owners behind these booths would just sit there and they would sit on their phones and they wouldn't really talk to people. And I was like, well, I'm doing way better over here at my little booth that I barely have anything and I'm talking to a bunch of people. And so I was like, maybe I could make money like outsourcing, to these people, and maybe they'd hire me to work at their booth to talk to people because they clearly don't really want to. So
Mhm.
that seed was planted in my mind probably a year or two prior to getting started in 2012.
Mhm.
And it kind of got put along the side for a little bit. I remember I was sick for a while and I just kind of let it go. And then I found this Craigslist post to work at the New York State Fair in summer of 2012. And I was like, whoa, this is actually really good money, like $20 an hour doing what I already do for my other business. So why not?
Right.
And I did it and I loved it. And from there, that year, I also booked my very first holiday program for Samsung, actually. That was in the Boston market. And my husband and I were dating at the time. We both jumped right in on that program together and
And
we
did you
climbed
did you
the
guys
ladder
meet?
pretty.
Did you guys, sorry to interrupt, did you guys meet as EXPs?
We met when I was doing my internet marketing consulting,
Okay.
actually, but we met in 2011. So we'd been dating for a little bit at that point, but we both had a lot of like marketing backgrounds, so it was kind of a natural transition for us.
Cool, that's awesome. And then you guys went on the road, you toured together. And what made you jump back now into, being a director and coming off of tour, off of being, on tours?
So I really enjoy touring and I love traveling. But
Mhm.
we have other things that we're still pursuing on the side. So I actually kept staffing while I was on the road quite a bit because it's one of those jobs where if it's not full time, you can kind of do it on the side, while you're doing other work. So I stayed staffing. My husband would drive a lot. He wanted me to drive more, but I was on my laptop all the time.
Yeah.
So once our long tour was done, that one was, I want to say, 15 months.
Ooh.
At that point, we just kind of slowed down for a little bit and
Okay.
we moved to upstate New York. In 2016, we moved back where I'm originally from, upstate New York.
Mhm.
And I started getting animals and stuff, and my husband's pursuing real estate. So we kind of like took a little break from the road life, but we still travel and do stuff. We just don't go on the road for months at a time now at this point.
Okay, so you're still, like you say, you're in the field and both of you are still executing events.
We do, yep. When we have time and we're able to. We're in a really remote area of upstate New York, so around this area there's not too much, but we still do like fly in, fly out jobs and things like that on occasion.
That's awesome. That is awesome. It's when you are working with your significant other, people don't understand like it's a different element and aspect that you really have to take into consideration because not only is this your co-worker or your core tour manager, but this is also your spouse. So it's that working relationship, that friendship, being able to separate the two. And I want to get a couple on one of the pop-up live interviews, hopefully soon, but that's a different aspect that people just don't, really, I don't want to say understand, but it's foreign to a lot of people when you don't, like me and my husband, we tour together too. So
Mhm.
I definitely know and understand that world as well.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, some people probably think it's a ton of fun, which it is, but at the same time, when you think about being with one person, whether it is your spouse or even another tour partner, you're with that person a lot. So you better get along with them.
Yes, yes, it can be crazy at times. So it all works out for the best, and we enjoy it. And I'm pretty sure both of you enjoy it and just being able to travel and see different places together. So it makes it all worthwhile in the
Oh,
end.
for sure.
Yeah, so why Oxford Marketing? Out of all of the agencies that you could have worked for in the industry, why did you choose Oxford Marketing?
So when we lived in Massachusetts, a little backstory here, but the first event that my husband ever worked, when I went and worked the state fair, he was living in Connecticut at the time, so he went and decided to do promos too. But the very first event that he ever worked was for my boss at Oxford. And Oxford was just getting started at the time. But that's kind of where that connection happened. My husband worked with my boss, and then later on, he did become my boss. So they're really good to work for. And, we've got a lot of flexibility with this job, and it kind of happened naturally. It wasn't something that was super busy in the beginning. It was just a matter of, Oxford came to me and said, hey, we've got this like 40-person soccer event. Can you help us staff it, in the Boston market? And I said, sure, I know a lot of people. I'll staff that. And it came down to, well, how many do you think you can get? Well, I'm going to get all 40. And I did on my first event that I booked. I got 40. And if I remember correctly, I think we had a couple of backups, but we had a full team of 40. Everybody showed up. I was so proud.
That's
But
awesome.
it did really well. So it just kind of grew from there. And, when you work with a good company, whether you're working as a brand ambassador or working as a staffer, when you work for a company that treats you well, I'm very loyal, if someone is taking good care of me. So that's really how that grew over time. It just was a really good dynamic and a good partnership. And that's how I got where I am today.
And that's awesome. And how does the characteristics that you have of loyalty and just taking care of your people, how has that transition in the position that you are in now as a director? How does that, and still staffing and working with EXPs and executing events, how has that transition?
Sure. Well, I think one of the main focuses that I have at our agency is first and foremost treating the people well. We know what it's like to work for awesome agencies. We know what it's like to work for agencies that maybe we don't want to work for again. All the dynamics are different. So I work really hard, and our team works together very hard to make sure that we're treating people well and we're loyal to our good people. And we want to rebook the same good people over and over as much as possible. So we understand all of the recruiters at Oxford. We all work events. We still work events. And we know what it's like working in the field. So we really try to put ourselves in their shoes, in their situation, and try to handle things as they arise in the best way, that we can.
And that's awesome because it also allows you to be even though as EXPs and actually executing events, we have to be the eyes and ears and be able to plan and think 2 steps ahead. Having an account manager or even a staffing coordinator that still or used to work events that actually understands what we go through in the field and can also assist us is important. So I think that's awesome that you guys still, a lot of the account managers in Oxford still execute events because it just makes our jobs out in the field as EXPs much easier when we relay any concerns that we're having on site. So that,
For sure. And I always try to be considerate of things. And I mean, I can tell you this past weekend, I was working in really hot, sunny weather and I was sweating the first 15 minutes. My t-shirt, my promo shirt was like soaked through. So, I know sometimes you think we don't understand. I get it. I know what
yeah.
you guys are looking into because I'm doing it. So I try to really as much as I can.
And I appreciate that, and I'm sure other EXPs appreciate that, and knowing that there are people within Oxford that not only understand but get it. It means a lot. So my next question for you is, describe your day as a director. Give me just a little, for those who may not know or understand what you do and what your job entails. Just give us a rundown of like a day in the life of Mandee.
Sure. Well, I will preface with this. I'm sure it varies across all agencies,
Mhm.
but my schedule is never really the same on a day-to-day basis. It really just depends on what's happening. Sometimes we feel like we got all caught up and everything looks great. And then we look at the schedule or our emails and a client has a last minute, 20-person program like, hey, can you pull this together in a few days? Or, hey, we've got this other program and we need all the names by, 3 days from now.
Oh.
So crazy stuff can happen. A day can change, in the blink of an eye. But for me, I do work from home or I work from the road, depending on what I'm doing. We're heading down to North Carolina for an event and driving on Friday. So I'll probably have my laptop out and be working from the road that day. So it really changes on a day-to-day basis, but it's a lot of responding to emails and making sure that event details are sent out, and we try to be as thorough as possible. I think it's very important for teams to know what they're doing before they get there as much as we possibly can from the, from the client's perspective and getting that info from them. So it's just a lot of double checking everything and making sure that we're good to go.
Doing the small details that some may consider tedious, but is extremely essential to the execution of one event, and that's just one event of many. So I get it, I get it. And when you're looking at staff, because a lot of EXPs have asked me, what do you look at as a director, or what does Oxford look at? The account managers, the staffing coordinators. What are some things that you guys consider when you are staffing EXPs for a event? And what type of events do you guys usually staff?
Sure. So I guess I'll break that question down into a couple parts. So as far as what kind of events we typically staff, we've got a pretty wide variety. We do a lot of street teams. We have a few major tours that we staff the BAs for all year long. So we have ongoing events and we have a big schedule for some of our programs that go on throughout the year. We do trade shows and we have a lot of costume character events. So from that standpoint, it is probably a lot of brand ambassador positions, and we do have a lot of like team lead or local market manager types of positions. So that's primarily what we staff right now. And then in terms of what we look for when we're staffing people, people have to create a profile with us first and foremost. So we use Staff Connect. So typically we take our applications through there. Every once in a while we do take emails as well, but good pictures are definitely a plus. And I know that BAs hear that all the time, check your pictures, make sure they're good. But we still get a significant amount of like Snapchat filtered photos or group photos. And even though
that was my next question. How do you guys deal with the selfies or the Snapchats? Is that Oxford approved, like in the realm of staffing an event with you guys? So.
Well, I understand if someone's new to the industry and they don't understand what we're looking for. So I cut them a little slack if something like that pops up, and I just let them know, hey, we just need something that doesn't have a filter. Send in a good selfie, a good headshot, and that's okay. But if they've been in the industry a while, they should know, don't send things that are full of filters. In that case, we have to sometimes use these headshots. This program I'm staffing this week in Chicago, I need headshots for all of their credentials. I can't use a Snapchat photo for them. And so we have to go in and sometimes get these photos last minute. We don't have time to ask for a new one. So it's important to make sure that those are clean cut. But don't upload group photos either, because we get quite a few of those, and it's surprising how many group photos we get. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea which person this BA is. It was all group. So it needs to be just you in the photo.
And just to be clear, when you guys are asking for these specific details when you're posting for a job or opportunity, it's not just for Oxford or the agency, but it's also for the client as well, correct? Because a lot of EXPs may ask, why do I have to do this? Like, why is that important? And why is that important?
Well, like I said, sometimes we have to go in their profile and we have to. Sorry, I think my cat snuck outside. Sometimes we have to go in their profile and grab a photo at the very last minute. So it's important that we have those available to the clients if we need them, in a hurry. So they don't always go to the client, but sometimes they do. So that's why those have to be on hand at the last moments.
Right, right. And what, as far as resumes, Is that essential to have, would you say?
It definitely is very important. An event experience on a resume means a lot too, because we see a lot of resumes come through with like retail experience, for example. And while that's great, some of these people that have just retail resumes have a lot of event experience, but it makes it look like they don't have event experience if that's the case. So, definitely add, your events as you're working, keep that
Yeah,
updated. You want to
yeah,
make sure that everything is current. So that's not to say that we don't hire someone that doesn't have experience. Everyone does start somewhere. As long
yeah.
as they've got a good personality and they have a strong interview, that's totally fine with me. But it's important to make sure that things stay current too, because that is something we do look at before we make phone calls, and we need something that's going to grab our attention.
Okay. And as far as referrals, are referrals important, or do you guys how much do you weigh referrals?
Referrals are definitely they go a long way with us. So if someone that has worked for us numerous times says, "Hey, I've got someone that's really awesome, they would love to work with you," then I will absolutely talk to that person. I don't necessarily have to see a resume first. It would be great to collect one at some point and just see what they have for event experience. But if we've got a really strong staff member that works for us on frequent events and refers somebody, I will call them in a heartbeat, because that goes a long way if it's from a trusted staff member.
And like you said, the key is that EXP being a strong person that is referring that individual for an event. So it makes sense to refer for people who have the experience, who have, um, expertise and have built a reputable name for themselves, to be able to refer individuals, and for you to be able to say, hey, I'm going to trust you and trust that this individual that you're hiring is of the same character, as you are for an event. So it makes a difference.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Okay. And then what would you say is one of the biggest myths that people have about being an account manager? I hear often, people ask, is it really that hard? Um, I could do this at home. What are some myths that you feel that, or misconceptions that people have about working as a director as well as working, with an agency? What are some misconceptions that people in the field may have?
Well, it is a lot of hours and it's not for everybody. And I can say that, we've worked with some recruiters and they've decided it's not for them, and it's because it's a very demanding schedule. And once you get into it, you realize that sometimes you're on call at really weird hours and you have to drop everything sometimes. And I say to people, sometimes, date night with my husband gets canceled because all of a sudden somebody dropped out on a major event and I have to go replace them right away. So things like that do happen. Another thing that's happened a couple times actually is where we've had people that traveled from out of town that were that are great staff members of ours that travel out of town to work an event, and sometimes stuff happens with their lodging. And I'm a very strong believer that you don't leave your staff stranded. So even
Yeah.
if they were traveling on their own, I need to help them, get into a new place if something happens, because I want them to be able to work and not worry. So that can happen at all hours of the night. I had a situation a couple of years back actually where a girl missed a flight that we were flying out somewhere, and she wasn't even able to get to the event. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning my time, and we were trying to find her a hotel because she landed in some weird city with a layover and missed her flight. So
Oh
I was trying to
man.
find her a hotel in the middle of the night. And things like that happen, but I don't want anyone to ever be in a really bad situation and feel like, they never want to work for us again because something bad happened that was out of everybody's control. So we try to keep up with issues as they arise and make sure that everybody is taken care of, but it is very demanding. Things happen constantly that we have to jump on top of and handle right there in the moment. So if you aren't a fast-paced person and you don't like this pace, it's not for everyone. I'll say that. But I thrive on fast pace. I keep up with it really well. I like it. So it's a good job for me because I don't mind. I need the challenge.
Do you think you'll stay in a director or account position full time? I mean, not full time, but transition full time to that position, or do you like to still be to go back and forth eventually? Like, what is your goal eventually to with Oxford or within the industry?
Well, I'm pretty full time right now. I find time to get out and work some of our events on occasion, like the one that I'm going to this weekend in North Carolina. So some of it we just work around it. We keep our events running while we're on site with clients at the same time. So the schedule, we find ways to make it work. But I don't anticipate going anywhere anytime soon. It's a good job. Like I said, my bosses are great to work for and I enjoy it. So I don't foresee going in another direction anytime in the near future. It's a good place to be.
And a couple more questions before I let you go. Uh, Favorite event to work, or one of your favorite events to work as a director or staff as a director, and how about in the field? What events were those, and why did you enjoy them?
Well, we staffed this past January in Atlanta, we staffed the college football championship.
Oh,
And it was a very big team. It was essentially 30 people that were working on, we called them the dancing fans. I kind of have to explain it, I guess, for it to make sense. But the client that was there set up at the college football championship set up like a dance activation.
uh-huh.
So we would have the guests come in one at a time or with a group of friends, and they would make like their dance video. But in the background, we had a big group of people also cheering and dancing behind them.
Oh, that's
So we had 30 people in the back, and then we had a reg team too. It was crazy. I don't think I've danced that much ever in my life. I had a great time. I got out there and I was like, I'm gonna make my video. So they all knew Mandee from Oxford showed up and danced a lot. It was
and what
super fun. I would do it
and
again
what
in a
I know
heartbeat.
that the staff was
It
surprised to see you, huh? To like see you there.
Hey, I was just there to have fun too. I worked with a team. I stood out. It was so cold, but I want them to know if I expect you to work out in freezing temperatures, I'm going to do it with you when I can. So that was really the biggest thing is I was trying to support them that they were out there in this really, really cold, freezing rain weather. I didn't
Yeah.
even know Atlanta could get that cold. I'm used to it up here, but Atlanta got
Yeah.
really cold in
Yes.
January.
We have bipolar weather, so sometimes it could be hot, some days it could be cold, some days we can get ice. It gets crazy. So I'm interested to see what Super Bowl is going to look like because we are hosting it this year, and I just found out Maroon 5 is the halftime show, but I'm interested to see how it's going to pan out with the weather because you just never know with Atlanta in February. So I'm hoping we don't have any
Mhm.
black ice nightmare type issues. But I know you guys will be staffing a lot of stuff for that as well. And it'll just be a lot of people, a lot of EXPs and a lot of events going on. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that should be a good time.
hmm So Oxford Marketing, how can people sign up with Oxford? I know you mentioned the Staff Connect that you guys use. Is there a certain criteria people need to have? And are you currently staffing anything that you need EXPs for? And if so, what cities or what do you need? Or what does your staff need? Someone, I want to just shout this person out. Jessica Bradford said, this is all very true with Oxford marketing, and they're all very professional. Jackie is awesome. And then Elliot wanted to say hi and just say that he appreciates everything Oxford does. So,
Awesome. Thanks
so
for
how?
joining me.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a lot of we're getting a lot of waves and a lot of likes and feedback from the group. So, how can people sign up with Oxford if they have not signed up? And do you have any events that you are looking for EXPs for?
Yeah, we always have events going on. The cities really vary. I know we've got some like movie screening events that are popping up. I think I've got a couple openings in Texas right now, Austin and San Antonio, maybe. Um, but we always have, like I said, we've got some ongoing programs too. We have an RV program and whatnot. So there's things like that that are always happening, and you just have to check the cities to see where they're at. But if someone wants to sign up and they're not yet with us, they can go to our main website at oxfordmarketingus.com, and you can just click, there's a link that says jobs, or you can click staff registration. There's a couple ways to find it, and you can just sign up on our portal from there. So just make sure if you're someone that likes to travel around that you check the regions that you're interested in working, and that will ensure that you get the email alerts for those areas when jobs come up.
Okay, and you guys, like you said, you post frequently, correct? So people they can always check or they'll get the alerts to know when to actually apply for events.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. And Mandee, what do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies before we go into spare time that you like to do? When you have a free moment, what do you like to do? I know you have a love for horses.
I
So,
do.
and you're doing an equestrian event this weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited to go down and work that. I was so excited when that client said, "Hey, we need staff for this event, the World Equestrian Games." So we're going down there, and we're just doing surveys with people this weekend. It'll be really easy and simple, and I'll get to see some of the events. But I do. I love animals. I have a cat, a rabbit, and a horse. So that said, I don't go too far for long periods of time because we have to find a pet sitter every time we go somewhere. So sometimes we bring them with us. The rabbit's gone on a couple road trips, but the cat's not so tolerant of that. So, but yeah, I do spend a lot of time horseback riding, and when my day has a little break, sometimes I go over and I keep her at a barn about 30 minutes from here. And so last night I went and rode for a couple of hours, and it was a really nice break. It's important to unplug. So
Yeah.
I like just doing things where I can turn my phone off for a bit because, people always need something, whether it's clients or staff. My phone's always going off. So it's really nice to just set it aside and take a little me time because otherwise I think I'd go a little crazy with all the
Yeah.
hecticness of the
Yeah.
job. But yeah, I'd say I spend a lot of time outdoors and spending time with the animals. So that's kind of my downtime.
That's oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, as I said, for taking time to conduct this pop-up interview with us in the group tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Mandee is just a pleasure to not only interview, but just to actually speak with and to know. She started as a brand ambassador, just like many of us have, and now she's transitioned to a director position, but she still works in the field. And I say that to say that she works for a great company in Oxford Marketing, which not only values and respects everything that she's doing, but they value and understand the importance of having great EXPs in the industry and having individuals which have worked in the industry that can then relate to the individuals executing events. So I just want to say thank you again, Mandee. Thank you to Oxford Marketing and everyone who works there to not only staff EXPs, but to have consistent opportunities for individuals to execute events. So,
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
yeah, you're welcome. And hopefully we can get you on some more in the future and we can discuss other topics as well.
Sounds great. Well, you've got a great thing going, so I'm really excited to be part of your group. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to comment or tag me in posts if anyone's, curious about how we do things or wants to know about an event. I'm happy to answer.
Yes, and I'm gonna post, not post, I'm gonna, in the comments, I'm gonna put Oxford's website in there as well. So any EXPs looking to execute events or just sign up with Oxford to get the alerts for jobs within your area, go ahead and do so today, and they'll make sure they keep you in the loop of anything coming to your area. So thank you guys again. Mandee, enjoy the rest of your night and safe travels to your event this weekend.
Thank you. Thanks,
You're
everybody.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.